just letting you know I'm turning that on now. And I'd like to begin by acknowledging that today we meet on stolen lands. I'm sitting on the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. You may be sitting on different lands across Australia when you're dialing in, but I'd just like to acknowledge elders past, present, and emerging, and also acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. So thanks everyone for joining us. This is another session to launch Figshare and part of the library's Research Spotlight series. So Figshare, if you're not familiar with it already, is a research data sharing platform. You should be able to see on the screen now that I've shared the web page here. If you've got questions as we go along, please feel free to ask questions. My colleague Adam is on the line, and I should say as well that my name's Sam Gibbard, and I'm a librarian at RMIT and responsible for administering Figshare along with Adam. So Figshare, as you can see here, is a web-based platform, and it's been brought in by RMIT as a place for researchers and academics like yourself to be able to easily log in and upload research data. So what is research data? I mean, already you can see from the associated data sets that we have here, it comprises of a vast variety of material. It could be an online resource. It could be data from a scientific instrument. It could be images. It could be PDFs. There's no limit really to what constitutes research data. I think if you just think of it broadly as any material that you use in the pursuit of undertaking your research. And why would you want to share it? There's a number of reasons. Obviously, the big driver behind sharing research data can be compliance. A lot of grant funders now require people to make their data sets available as a condition of the grants, but also the other big factor really is driving visibility and exposure of your research. So you put a lot of time and effort into conducting research, and you want people to know it's out there. I suppose that leads us into the third big driver, which is reusability. So another reason that you might want to share your data is that you want other people to benefit from the work that you've done by either reusing, repurposing, or reproducing the results. So there's a lot more that you can learn about that. We've got an excellent library guide that Adam's put a lot of work into, and he'll post a link in the comments to that, that if you want to spend a bit more time understanding more about the research data lifecycle and what constitutes research data, then have a look at that. So as you can see from here, it's a very I guess visual platform, and I'll just take you through what you can expect to find when you're interacting with it. So all of the data sets are listed on this title page here. For example, this is one that we've just re-uploaded into Figshare. So this is a set called Happy Feet, and it was research conducted into using baby footprints as an infant biometric. So within this this collection now, what you can see here is there's an image here and then a downloadable zip file. So you can either upload individual files that people can then interact with. So I can click on that image and have a look here, zoom in. So it's quite easy for people to interact with what you put on here. Otherwise, if you've got large files, here you can see the other part of this file is a zip file, which you can download here on the download button and then use on your computer. The other benefit here is that it's quite easy to add your metadata elements. So here you would put in a summary of what the data set comprises of, as well as any additional authors. And then there's categories that you can fill in. So there's subject categories here, as well as free text keywords. So you just want to think about how someone's going to what kind of keywords would someone be using if they wanted to try and find your data. Obviously, Adam and myself are available to help populate your records for you if you're not sure how to do that. So you can begin the process by uploading a data set and then just get in contact with us. We have an easy email address that you can use, which is research.data@rmit.edu.au, and we'll put that in the comment section as well. But you can chase us up, send in an inquiry before you want to submit, or you can start the submission process and then contact us and say, can you give me a bit of help with that? That's fine. And so here as well, you can see that you can also link things like funding. So there's 2 funding grants related to this data set. And then as you scroll down, you can also add in web references. So this data set is related to a number of published outputs, and those published outputs are all listed here, many of which are also captured in RMIT's research repository. So it's a good way of creating linkages between your works. So that's an example of one record there. I'll just show you a couple of others as examples. Now, the benefits here, I mean, obviously, being able to host your data on the web on this platform is very appealing for people. Storage is often, where do I put it so that people can use it? But you may also, for example, have your data hosted on a different platform, and you want to be able to point to it. So here's an example. I'll just click through here. So this is a data set of courier trajectories. This was part of a research data project that we worked on a couple of years ago. Now this data is held on a server in eResearch, and you can see the links here. So if I click on this link, it will then take me to where that data is hosted. So then I can interact with it. So the benefit though of still putting your record into Figshare is that this enhances the discoverability of it, and as well you can link to published outputs and so on. So while that this set of data has a home, so to speak, that you still want people to be able to find it. So when it's sitting on a server in the back end of eResearch, it's not as discoverable. You'd actually have to know this web address to find it. So again, not a problem if you've already got your data placed somewhere. You can easily create a link and a record here on Figshare. So a couple of other instances where you may be interested. What if you want to put your data up on Figshare, but you don't want it to be publicly accessible? You want to know who's going to individually be wanting to look at it. So what you can do there, this is an example of a record. This is actually my thesis, but it's not publicly available. You have to then email the author, in this case myself here, and then I can send a private link. I'll show you how to do some of these things in a moment. But yeah, there's a number of reasons why you might want to do that. You may have sensitive information there, or you just want to control that information, who's looking at it a bit more tightly, and that's totally fine. All of those variations of what you may want to do with your data are allowed in Figshare, and ultimately, while you can post things up on here and make them available, you still maintain control over your data. So if you at a later date wanted to make amendments or take some or all of your data down, that's totally fine. You can do that. But yeah, the idea here really is about promoting your data and making it available so that you don't have to worry down the line about where it is and if people can still access it. So there's some other great features as well, which the main one would be the ability to mint a digital object identifier. So here's an example of a very new record that just was uploaded by a academic a couple of weeks ago. So here again, you can see there's a variety of zip files associated with this record. And also you can see that they've put in a script which allows you to access these zip files via Python. So you may want to think about when you upload a data set, how somebody is going to be able to access that. So you might want to put a notepad file saying, this data was captured using this type of software, and this is how you will need to access it in future. But what Andrew is able to do here, he's obviously published an article now, and this data supports that published output. And he was able to mint a DOI with this record. So that's something you can do, and I'll show you in a moment. But in the published article, you can put the DOI, which in essence works as a permalink, so that when someone's read that article and they want to look at the associated data, they can click that DOI and it will bring them to the Figshare record here. So there's a lot of value in that. Obviously, one of the things we love telling people is if you publish your data, your article is going to be cited longer and for more often. How many more citations? It's been studies have been conducted, and it's anywhere between 20 and 60% increased citations from sharing data. So that's significant. So what I will show you now, you've had a little look at the public face, and I would encourage you, if you're interested, just to have a look through these data sets. We're adding more all the time as we go, and really they give you good examples of what you can do with a set. I will show you now what it looks like if you want to upload data. So important to know that to create an account with Figshare, all you have to do is log in with your single sign-on. So that's just your normal RMIT student or staff number and password, and it will automatically log you in. So if I click on upload, I'm taken to the screen that you'll see here. Again, a big sort of plus for Figshare is it's very easy to use and quite intuitive. There's not a lot of complicated screens. So this just shows you some of the data files I've uploaded already. And then if I want to create a new item, I click on create new item, and this is the main screen. It's only one screen that you'll see when you want to make a submission. Now, you can either drag and drop files into the highlighted box here or browse on your computer. So if I click on browse, I'll just share a Figshare poster. You'll see the file begin to upload there. That's done. I can just type in my title. I won't go through all these fields because it'll be a little bit tedious, but I'll explain what each one is. Authors, you can add multiple authors, and particularly there's really useful things that you can do, i.e. Linking ORCID to the authors. That way you can set up your ORCID account to automatically harvest anything you upload into Figshare. So that's something to consider. It really removes you needing to manually keep telling your ORCID account that you've added another research output. Categories I showed you on the sort of public view, but yeah, you can easily identify the main categories. If you're not sure, you can sort of type in a keyword and then it will give you suggestions of those headings. Group, now group is broadly based off the you can either leave it as RMIT, or if you want to mine down to college or school level, then that helps people that might want to be searching for similar data, well, for data sets from a particular school. And also we've got RMIT Europe and Vietnam there. So the default just is RMIT University, but we'd encourage you to identify yourself at school level if appropriate. Item type just lets you give the user a bit of an idea of what type of data this is. So there's a variety of different outputs you can capture there. And then you've got keywords, which that's just a straight free text. You can literally put in any word and then just hit return and add multiple keywords as appropriate. Description, people sometimes use like if the data relates to a published output, you might want to just copy your article abstract and put it in here. You can also put information about what the data specifically is and how someone might need specific tools or software to access it. Next, you can see there's funding. You can literally put in a grant number and it will automatically import that grant information. And references are as many web-related resources you want to put in there. So you can see here it says links to relevant content or external sources that help describe the research. So they must be valid URLs or DOIs, and you can just pop those in as you go and put as many as you like. Licenses are, that could be a whole nother conversation, but typically what you're doing here is you're signaling what a subsequent user can do with your data. So there's very restrictive licenses, and there are licenses that say, look, as long as you credit me, you can reuse my data and repurpose it. You can do that commercially or non-commercially. So if you're not sure, it's a good idea to have a little, you can look up on by clicking this link and read what these various licenses are. But generally, we tend to use a 4.0, which is non-commercial, but gives the person who's downloaded that data permission to broadly use it for study and reuse. And it's all about attribution. So they can use it, but they need to credit the person that they've used the data set from. Finally, we get down to these functions here. Now, Embargo is an interesting one. Often someone might have a published output that hasn't been published yet. So you may want to upload your data, but say, I don't want it to be published until the associated journal article comes out. So you can basically either say the file itself will be embargoed, or the entire record, which would be this button here, and then select a period. You might say 3 months or 6 months, whatever's appropriate, and then pop that in there. Generating a private link is what I was referring to when you want to make the data confidential. Someone can then contact you. You can generate that private link and supply only that person with access to the data. So that's useful as well if you want to maintain a lot more control over who's able to access your data. And then finally here we have the digital object identifier, and that's simple as once you're ready to go with your record and you've filled in all the other information, you can click on this and it will give you a unique DOI. So from there, you just come down and select publish, and that's pretty much it. It's very straightforward. Obviously, if you've missed one of the required fields, which are these green buttons here, it won't let you proceed. And you can go back and make changes. That's important to consider. But yeah, if you need help with any of these fields, or you're not sure, obviously, when this record goes to publish, Adam and I will get a notification and we'll review these as well. And if you do want some help, or even if we can see that there's something that could be improved upon, we can email you. Yeah, so that's sort of a lightning fast run through. I'm not going to save that one. Yeah, so that gives you an idea of like what you see on the front face and how you would interact. You can also create projects. Projects might mean there's multiple people contributing to a collection. So if there's 3 or 4 people working on a research project, each individually collecting data, you might want to put that under a project umbrella, and then it's all linked via that feature. You can also make collections. So in the course of a research project, you might have individual research data sets that you want to then collect in this collection feature. You can also, I think, collect. If you go here, you can add favorites as well. So there's little things you can do like that. But the main feature of it really is sort of drag and drop and get things up and published. It's very, as I said, easy to use and not very complicated. I'll just go back and see if we had any questions from anyone that's listening, or if there's any feature you'd like me to just talk a bit more about, or something that I might have skipped over. That's not a problem if people are happy. I mean, that was
actually, there's a quick question. Sorry, Sam. There's one question here. It's just EJ Shu asks, I'm most interested in reusability. Would love to hear more about the different types of research data available.
Yeah. So reusability, I mean, a good example of that. You can still see my screen here. This courier trajectories data set. Initially, I believe that these trajectories were captured by a different researcher, and then Matt Duckham here at RMIT has reused them for basically to look at different elements. So at one point, the courier trajectories themselves were used by a company that just captured the data from their bike couriers and vehicle couriers in London. What Matt Duckham then looked at was this aspect of spatial temporal analytics and saying, what other things can we learn? So I think that aspect of, you might put a lot of time and energy into creating a data set that you want for one limited purpose, but that somebody else might be able to take that data and then build upon it. So that's really, the principle of reuse. I suppose another good example immediately comes to mind is we have here a collection of audio interviews. So Kirby Fenwick, she produced a audio documentary, which was all about the first women's AFLW game. She, in the course of her research, conducted a large 35 audio interviews. You can see here, most of which were between 20 and 35 minutes. The actual documentary, which is housed here, which you can listen to, is about an hour. But yeah, you can imagine there's a lot of content that she collected in the pursuit of that audio documentary that she wasn't able to use in the final documentary. But in the interests of sharing, she's put all these interviews up along with transcripts. So in the hope that there's a variety of material there that would be use of for someone else to come along and do some subsequent research or produce something else with that material. So that's really what we talk about with reusability, is that everyone can sort of see the value, I think, in sharing what else can be done. This Happy Feet research in particular, I know that Kathy's just let me know that they just published another, I mean, the original research to this started back, I think it was, what we can see here. I'll just see if the latest output comes up. So that's 2013.
while you're at it, I just want to double down on this. She just there's a follow-up question regarding the interviews. While that's fresh in our memory, her concern would be whether the original informed consent form provided to the interviewees extends to other kinds of use, and is this something that is checked before the data is posted? So, like, are people aware that these data sets will be uploaded? I think, to paraphrase slightly, when the original data is collected, are these people aware that they're going to be data sets in the future?
Yeah, I think that's something that that you would want to make sure that you've built in. I believe that Kirby subsequently went back and spoke to the interviewees about her intentions to make all of the interviews available. So, particularly when you are dealing with things like interviews, then that's something you want to have as a consideration for sure. Informed consent is important. That you do get permission for the full interview to be used. So I mean, again, if you're not sure about that sort of thing, we have a lot of assistance at the university in terms of research integrity and ethics forms that you can run past your supervisor or someone at the university to understand if that's appropriate. Now, there are things that simply just aren't appropriate to go onto Figshare, and a lot of medical kind of research isn't for various reasons. So yeah, I think definitely if you're unsure, that's something that you can speak to someone who knows the answer. We can put you in touch with people if you're not sure.
Yep, that's great, Sam. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for just popping by, and obviously we're both on hand to run through things individually if you'd like to know more information. If you've got a data set and you're not sure, how would this work? Can I have someone help me, or even just look through it and give me some suggestions? That's what Adam and I are here for. So just drop an email to research.data, and we can further advise. But really, you can see from have a look and a sort of play around on the site and see the different things that people have already started uploading, and it should give you a pretty broad idea that that everyone has something that they could be uploading, and we'd really encourage you to think broadly and start sharing. Yeah, thanks everyone, and I'll send out a link to all the participants today with the recording, so you can, if you'd like to, you can go back and review this at your leisure. So thanks very much, everyone.